Hey everybody, Cougar here with a beginner's quick start guide to the new transport sim from Urban Games, Transport Fever. The game does not have a manual. It does have a tutorial that teaches you some of the basic concepts, but I'm going to take this a bit further, show you how to set up a profitable line right at the start, and hopefully give you a sense of some of the underlying dynamics that are driving the game mechanics and let you take it from there. So let's start a new game. Let's start a free game. Take a look at how we're setting up the map here. This is a small world, medium hilly. We're starting in the year 1900. We're going to do this on easy so that we start with a lot of money. That'll let me keep things going a little bit faster in the early game, but the concepts that I'm showing you will carry over to medium difficulty. Hard difficulty is apparently very hard. I haven't tried it, but I've got veterans of Train Fever saying that it is very difficult to make a profit on hard, so we're probably not going anywhere near that. Our world format will be 1 to 2. That means it'll be a rectangular map. If we put this on custom and then go into advanced settings, I like green maps, so I'm going to change the terrain and the trees to European. The American maps are more deserty. I like the green maps, so we're going to have the terrain and the trees European, everything else set to American, and we will save that and then start a new game. Alright, here's the map that the computer has generated for us. Let's zoom out and take a look. We've got a river running right through the middle of it. We've got 3 towns on the north side of the river: Pomona, Springfield, and Buffalo. We've got 2 towns on the south side of the river: Little Rock and Augusta. We've also got a variety of industries and production sites scattered around here. We've got a coal mine, we've got an oil well, oil refinery, we've got some food processing here, a machine factory, we've got a materials plant that creates bricks here, all that kind of stuff. But for our purposes, we're going to start out with a passenger line. For that, we're going to be looking for 2 cities that are not separated by water or a mountain, because bridges and tunnels are expensive to build. And let's go down here to the lower right hand corner. We've got our overlays. Let's turn on the terrain contour overlay. This will help us decide where we want to set up our first line. Looking up here, Springfield and Buffalo are fairly close together. Yes, they've got some hilly terrain as the crow flies between them, but it looks like you can go around, follow the road here, and not encounter too much hilly terrain and not lose too much distance between the 2 towns. Down here, Augusta and Little Rock, not separated by water, but the terrain down here looks a little bit hillier. If I was going to run a line here, I would probably want to loop it around that outcropping there. I'm leaning towards starting up here, running a line between Springfield and Buffalo. Let's zoom in on Springfield, see how these guys are doing. The Springfieldians going about their daily lives. Isn't it lovely? Cute little town. Now if you click on any of these people, it gives you a little more details about what they're doing. This guy's heading home from work. He's also heading home. This guy is heading to work. That's his destination. He's also heading to work, So it's the start of the day. Everybody's off to work, gonna earn some bread. We've got the late shift coming home from work. But all these people, they got someplace they want to be, and we are going to help them get there. A lot of them are wanting to go to Buffalo. I can just sense it. So we're going to set up a rail line here. Now, before we build anything, I'm going to advise you, if you are a new player here, you're probably going to want to save your game before you start anything else. So let's do that right now. That way, if you make a mistake, if you misplace something, if something doesn't hook up right, you can always come back and start fresh. We are going to start fresh with a rail line. Down here on the bottom, you see we've got rail, road, boats, and planes. No planes available yet. Here's our rail building tool, our track building tool, and our street building tool down here at the bottom. We're going to start with a rail station. It defaults to the passenger setting. See, the other setting is a cargo terminal. We want the passenger terminal. The M and the N keys will rotate this around. we are going to set this up. Now, we're not going to worry too much about getting this right in the middle of town right now, because the town is going to grow up around this station, and we are also going to have bus lines that are helping bring passengers to our terminal. So right here on the edge of town is probably fine, but let's make sure that we immediately connect it to the road network so that we don't forget. So we'll put a street down right here. Just click and drag to put down a street. Now we'll switch to our rail tool, and we will start dragging our rails toward Buffalo. Now you see, we could in theory drag this rail all the way to Buffalo and just have the computer do everything, flatten out the terrain for us along the way. That can be expensive. We want to do this in short legs to keep the amount of terrain deformation to a minimum. That will keep our costs low. And you see we are deforming the terrain a little bit here. We're digging through a bit of a rise. That's okay. That's not going to kill us, especially on easy. You see that we start with $9 million down in the lower left-hand corner. That's where our bank balance is. That's at $9 million. On easy mode, I think it starts at half that, maybe $4 million on normal mode. So we're drawing our train sections here in short little legs, trying to keep the terrain deformation to a minimum, following the curve of the road a bit. Cutting through the terrain a little bit here, but it's not doing too much damage to us financially. Now that we're getting close to Buffalo, I think it'd probably be a good idea to get our train station set up here so that we make sure that it's coming in at a good angle. Again, with the passenger station, M and N to rotate. I think we're going to have this guy coming in. See, there's a lot of terrain deformation going on over there and over here. We can keep him right here out at the edge of town. Let's see if we can keep him on this side of the road so that we don't have to do a road crossing. Yeah, that looks like that's going to work. Alright, we'll go ahead and plop that down there. Now, you see, if we click on it, as long as it's connected to the road, it's going to highlight its catchment area here. Now, click off of it, and the catchment area disappears. But the catchment area highlight shows us what portion of the town's residents it's going to be attracting organically without them having to be brought here. That's fairly small right now, but as I said, the town is going to grow up around this station, and we're also going to be putting down some bus lines to help bring people from other parts of town to our station. So now that we've got that train line down, let's finish hooking up our rails. We can actually start from this portion there. And there we go. There we have our first rail line. Now, every line that you set up in Transport Fever is a 5-step process. You're going to create the stations, create a depot, make a new line, build a vehicle, and assign that vehicle to the line. So we've got our stations down. Step 2 is to create a depot. We're going to go back to our rail button down at the bottom, switch to the depots button. There's our train depot right there. We're going to put this at a nice little halfway point between our two stations here. Make sure that it's far enough away from the line to allow for a connection going either direction. Now back to our tracks. Drag our tracks here until it meets up. Yoink. And then one going the other way. Yoink. And there we go. Now that we've got our depot set up, now we're going to create a new line. Here's our line manager button down on the bottom left. Show or hide line manager. Let's bring that up. Click new line. Add a station is the default. As soon as you click new line, we'll add that station, Springfield, and the station at Buffalo. That is our line 1. Now we are going to go to our depot, buy a train. Here are the trains that we can choose from. We've got a Borsig, we've got a Prussian G3, a Prussian T3, and a PLM 220. PLM 220 has the highest top speed right now, so let's make that our engine. These early trains cannot drag many cars. A compartment car will probably do fine for this. Let's start off with 2 cars. These will not be filled up at the start, but that will allow us for a little bit of room to grow. Now we've got train number 1. We're going to set the line to line 1. And our train should start on its maiden voyage. See, what I did there was I clicked on the train, and then I clicked in this crosshair in the upper left-hand corner of its pop-up window. That lets us follow the train. If you hover your mouse over the picture-in-picture in the pop-up window, you see that there's a little camera in the lower left-hand corner. That will allow us to go to first-person view and ride along with the conductor on this train. Isn't it pretty? All right. Well, I could do that all day, but this is a beginner's quick start guide, so we got to keep moving. Close that window. Now, you'll notice there are no passengers at this station right now. We got to let this train run for a while to let word spread that this line is in existence and that it is reliable and the train is making frequent stops at both stations. When the word has spread a little, we'll start to see passengers popping up here. As soon as we see a passenger pop up in either of these stations, we are going to start thinking about building a bus network to bring more passengers to the station. But until we see that first passenger, there's really no reason to start our bus network because we're going to have operating costs as soon as we put down our first bus. I'm going to speed up time here, keep this guy moving. Yeah, those buses will be racking up operating costs even though there's no one for them to carry around, so we're not making any money off of them. So there's no reason to put them down until there's someone to bring to the station. No one yet. It'll probably have to make at least one full round trip before we start seeing passengers at these stations. But in the meantime, it's lovely, and you just want to watch these beautiful trains chug, chug, chug. I'm going to set this to high speed. All right, over here you can see that we have a passenger waiting at the station. That is good. That means that everything is hooked up correctly and passengers are going to start arriving to be carried around. So the next step in this process is to set up a bus line that is going to bring passengers to our bus line. So down here at the bottom of the screen we click on Road. It defaults to a bus tram stop. We're going to put one right here next to the station. Actually, I wonder if I can, yeah, okay. Right here next to the station, and then if we click on that, you see its catchment area. This is the coverage of that station. We want to build another station as far away from that as we can, and still max with a good catchment area. That looks pretty good. We're getting the whole center of town there without a lot of overlap with the station down at the with the bus station down at the train station. So there's our second one there. Now remember the second part of this process is always to build a depot. So we switch to the depot setting. It doesn't really matter where the depot is. It's not going to be used that often. So as long as it's somewhere fairly close to the stations. All right, now that we've got our depot down, step 3 is always create a line. So we're going to go to our line manager, click New Line, click the first bus stop here, and then the second bus stop up by the train station here. That's line number 2. Now we are going to click on the depot, buy a vehicle. Let's buy one of these little Landauer passenger trains. We've got the Obéissant is steam driven. It's fairly slow and clunky. The Obéissant's kind of cool look. The Landauer is a little bit cool looking, cooler looking. So let's buy one of those. Click the Set Line button. Assign it to line 2. And there it goes. Starts moving out. Doing its thing. Isn't he cute? Just adorable. So he'll make this route. It looks like he's making his first stop up by the train station. That's fine. There aren't any passengers waiting yet anyway. But we want to do, now that we've got that line down in Springfield, we want to do the same thing in Buffalo. Alright, now he'll start running this line and bringing passengers to our rail station here in Buffalo. When we start seeing more passengers show up at this bus stop, we'll consider buying another vehicle and setting it to the same line. But there we go. This is, close these windows. There we go. This is a good basic money-making setup for the early game, okay? We built a rail line between two fairly close cities, cities that were not separated by water or a mountain. We let that line run a couple of times, let it generate some passenger traffic. When the passenger traffic was there, we built 2 bus stations in each town. So 2 train stations, 4 bus stations total, and you've got a nice little money-making network set up. Now, you could go and replicate that in another town here, do the same thing. Train station at Augusta, train station at Little Rock, depot, build a train, start a new line there. When the passengers get going, put down some buses in Augusta, buses in Little Rock, and you've got another money-making network there. For the purposes of this quick start tutorial, though, want to move on to some cargo stuff. So we're going to set up a cargo line next. The most important thing to understand about how cargo works in Transport Fever is that everything is demand driven. That means if there is no demand for the product that you are producing, it will not go anywhere. Nothing will happen. None of your cargo lines will work. So with that in mind, it helps to set up your cargo lines back to front. So you start with the end product. What are you going to be producing, and where can you sell that product? That is the most important thing to understand about how all these lines are going to work. So with that in mind, I'm noticing that there's this oil well here fairly close to an oil refinery. Now an oil refinery picks up crude oil and produces oil and fuel from that crude oil. So the first thing we got to start thinking about, if we want to run crude oil to this refinery, what we have to figure out before we even lay down our first cargo station is, what are we going to do with the end result? What are we going to do with the fuel? And what are we going to do with the oil? Now, cities will request fuel. If I click on the name of the city here, the city pop-up window comes up. These are what the city is demanding, and they're color-coded, okay? So the shopping facilities, the commercial district, is demanding tools and food and goods. The industrial district is demanding construction materials, machines, and fuel. So there's a potential outlet for the fuel that we're going to be producing up here. We can ship the fuel down to Augusta. Now, as I was looking at the map earlier, I also noticed that there is a refinery down here, a chemical plant down here. they are requesting oil. They will use that oil to create plastics. Okay? So there is a potential outlet for our oil from this refinery. So we've got that step set up. If you want to take it a step further, the plastics that are coming out, if we're going to be giving this guy oil, we need to do something with his plastics or nothing's going to work. So here is a machine factory up here. This machine factory will take plastics and steel and create tools and machines, both of which can be sold in town. That is your end product. That is really the end of our chain, and we should be thinking backward from there. As long as we know that we've got some outlets for machines and tools, which we do, there are 2 good-sized towns here that we can sell our machines and tools to, we can proceed with our cargo line. All right, now this oil well, this refinery, and this town are all far enough apart that we could be thinking of a rail line here, a cargo rail line, but they're right on the border, I think. It's also possible to do this with trucks, and because it's the early game, trucks are probably the way to go because the operating costs are much lower than trains. You're going to be seeing more of a profit, and they're also just a little bit more flexible. You know, they tend to not have quite as many problems as train lines do, just in terms of keeping the stuff moving. So let's start thinking about creating a cargo line between the oil well and the oil refinery. First thing we're going to do is go to our road networks down here at the bottom. Make sure that you switch this to the cargo button so that we're not putting down a passenger station where we want a cargo station. We're going to put this fairly close to the oil well, just like that. And now we're going to click our road button and start running let's make it a medium country road. We'll turn on our terrain contours to help keep us honest in terms of how much terrain deformation we're doing. And now back to our road, our truck station. This station is going to see a lot of traffic. This is going to have a lot of stuff dropping off and picking up. So let's go with a large cargo station here. Okay, that should be close enough for automatic transfer. The way to confirm that, after you put it down, click on it, make sure this highlights. It does. Again with the other one, just to make sure that it is within the catchment area. Click on this cargo station, and yes, it does highlight the oil well, so stuff will be coming out of there. So again, 5-step process. We put down our cargo stations, then we put down what's next, a depot. Put that right in the middle here. Then what's next, we set up a line manager, new line, start here, pick that stuff up, drop it off here. Let's change that color to black because it's oil. And then click on the depot, buy a road vehicle, and start a cargo truck running on that line. Buy the truck, click on the new line, click on set line. Line 4 is the oil line, and we'll let him make that run a couple of times to teach the oil well and the refinery that, hey, there is an active line set up here. You should start sending your goods to me. Now, but we have to start thinking about demand, because this oil refinery is going to get clogged up if we don't have some place to unload its goods. So let's start thinking about getting the fuel at least down into the city of Augusta. We can do that with a road. Before we go any further, let's set up our cargo station here in town. Now we're going to go to our overlays. The fuel is demanded by the industrial part of town. So with our overlay up, the industrial part of town is over here on the right. So we want to put this in a place where we're catching a lot of industry. Oops, that's a depot, idiot. Change to a cargo station, change back to a small cargo station. Now that's catching a lot, so I think what we'll do is we'll turn it this way and extend the road a little bit. But that looks like it's going to be in a good place. In fact, with these towns, the more you help them create viable road networks, the better off they're going to be. So you may want to go in and invest a little money in this town, in this town's future growth, just by connecting all these roads as best you can. All right. So now we've got a cargo station here that is going to deliver to the industrial area. We're going to finish connecting this road with a medium country road. That looks nice. All right. And now we are going to set up a new line. The line is going to, so line manager, new line. The line is going to take fuel from the refinery down here to town. And we're going to make that red for fuel. Well, we've already got a red one. Let's make it a darker red. Okay. Then we're going to buy a vehicle back here at the depot. A cargo vehicle. Buy that. Let me show you something here. With this is the depot window, right? And it shows the vehicle that we just bought. If you click on this plus down here, it allows you to manually set what is going to be picked up by this truck. I find that a little restrictive. I actually like to just leave it on automatic so that it will pick up whatever is available to it to pick up if it knows that there's going to be a demand for it at its destination. So that's how you can set things manually, but I don't like to do it that much. Now we're going to set the line for this truck. Sorry, here's the vehicle here. Assign a line. Line is 5. That will be delivering fuel from the refinery. So there you go. So we've got the beginnings of an active production line. Pretty soon this oil well is going to start producing. There it is. It just popped some out. This oil well is now producing oil for us to pick up. This truck is going to come through and pick up the oil. It's going to take it down to the oil refinery. The refinery is going to turn it into fuel, which is then going to be picked up and taken into town to be sold in the industrial zone. Now that we've actually got some product at this cargo station, let's go ahead and buy another vehicle. In fact, let's buy a couple more, since it looks like it's turning out a good amount of product and these are fairly small vehicles. We'll assign all of the vehicles that we now have in our depot here to line 4. That's our oil delivery line. Now some people like to change, you can go in and change the names of these lines, right, to use some kind of naming convention. I find that can be more trouble than it's worth. It's easy enough to tell just by looking at the consist of the vehicle. So you can tell that's a passenger line, that's a passenger line. It's not that hard to remember which is which. You can also use colors to remind you. Use certain colors for passenger lines, certain colors for cargo lines. So something just got sold. I wasn't paying attention. These trucks have just come out of the depot and they're going the wrong way. Let's use the turn around button on their window to reverse them back toward where they're going to be picking up some cargo, some oil. All right, now this is going to take a little while to get going. The next thing we can start thinking about is what are we going to do with the actual oil that's produced here from the crude. Now remember, we had that plastics plant way the heck down at the end of the river here. That looks like a good opportunity to use some shipping, right? So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set up a cargo station down here by the river for trucks to bring the oil from the refinery down to the river. Then we're going to set up a dock at this end and a dock down near the refinery down there. Now remember, an important thing to remember here, let's use the overlays down here and go to navigable waters. The most important thing to remember when you start thinking about laying out a river, a shipping route, is that bridges will not allow your ships to pass to begin with. So the first thing you're going to have to do when you start thinking about shipping is go through and demolish these bridges and build new bridges that are higher to allow your ships back and forth. So before we worry about that, though, let's go ahead and get down. Let's set up our route. Let's put a cargo station. No, let's not put the cargo station down yet. Let's put the actual ship station down. So I've clicked on the shipping, on the water stuff. Make sure that you switch this from passenger to freight. Rotate it around with the M and the N keys, and then put it wherever you want it. That looks like a good spot. And then set up our other one down here at the station. Now this looks like it may even be close enough that we won't need a cargo line to transfer it to this station. This may actually be within the catchment area after we connect it to the road. So let's do that right away. Whoop. Yeah, no, that road's too big. Let's make it a small country road. Connect that. Now if we click on it, does this light up? Yes, it does. So we aren't even going to need, our oil is automatically going to be transferred to this chemical plant to be turned into plastic. We don't even need a cargo line at that end. So that's very good news. A truck line, I should say. All right, let's connect this. And put a cargo station, a truck station nearby. So I clicked on the road line and the station, freight stations. You can actually put that right here. And now we set up a new line. So we've already, do we need another depot? I think that depot is going to serve us fine for now. We don't have to build another one. So let's just go to our line manager, click new line. We're going to be bringing oil from the refinery to the docks. All right. And we're going to buy a truck. And assign him to that line, line 6, just to get him going. Convince everyone that stuff is actually happening there. Now we've got our 2 freight docks. We have to start thinking about these bridges. The bulldozer is on the bottom toolbar all the way on the right. We're just going to demolish that bridge. We're going to change to a medium country road. Actually, that's a small road, isn't it? Yes. And we're going to create our own bridge. Yeah, this may be a problem. See, there's a potential problem here I'll point out to you. Do you see how when the computer creates these bridges, it makes these little earthen ramps at the start? Sometimes those will not allow you to build a new bridge there. Let's see. It's just a little bit tricky. So you may end up being better taking them elsewhere. But here, so here we have a bridge across the water. Now the M and the N keys, again, will raise this up. With the way these earthen ramps are restricting us, we're not going to be able to get this high enough here. So we're going to just make a new line over here. Just off to the side a little bit. New line, new bridge. Now we raise it up until it's high enough that that is not restricted anymore. There we go. And connect it back to the network. Ugh. I said connect it back to the network. There we go. And we must do the same thing to this bridge down here. Bulldozer, demolish. This one's got an even more pronounced earthen ramp. There's no way we're going to be able to make that work as a higher thing. Oop, let's start a little farther away. So we'll make our own bridge here. M key to raise it up. And reconnect the road to keep the network intact. Okay. Now, that should work. Let's click on our navigable waters. We've got solid green all the way through under both bridges. We're not going to be going above this bridge, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Next thing we need is, now that we've got 2 stations down, step 2 is always a depot. There's our docks. Let's find a nice midpoint for it. And plop down our docks. Next step is always to create a new line. So let's bring up our line manager. New line. We're going from these docks to these docks. And we're going to buy a ship. Switch this to freight only. Let's see what we've got here. These are some ugly ships. That's not ugly. Let's try the Klondike. Yes. Now, cargo types. Let's just confirm that this can carry oil. It can. And can it carry plastic back from the plastic factory? It can. So this is going to work. Let's buy that. Let's assign it to a line, line 7, and turn off our water overlay, and enjoy. The Klondike. Oh, she's pretty. All right, enough of that. I'll let you do that on your own. Enjoy the sights and sounds. So look at how quickly, we've been at this for like 20 minutes. We've got this successful. Let's go back up here and check on our passenger line. Look, we've got passengers waiting at our bus stops. We've got 1 passenger waiting there. We've got a bunch of passengers, 14 passengers waiting at our train station in Springfield. The train is chugging along, carrying 22 passengers. He's got a full load heading for Buffalo, and it looks like there's a full load waiting for him here. At this point, we can actually start to think about sending the train back to the depot and adding more passenger cars to it. We got plenty of passengers waiting at our bus stops. Now would be a good time to think about adding another bus to this line and to the line in Springfield as well. We've got a good looking cargo line going up here, bringing crude oil from the oil wells down to the refinery. The refinery is pumping out oil here, and it should be pumping out fuel too. Not sure why it isn't, or maybe it is and we just are not seeing. No, he's not carrying any fuel yet. It just hasn't really taken effect yet. It's still taking some time for it to realize that there is demand down here. But there definitely is. That'll get going eventually. You just got to give that a little more time. And then we've got the oil going down to the docks here, where it will be picked up by our ship, taken down to the plastics factory down here. They will pick up the plastics from the factory and transport them back up here eventually to be taken to this machine factory to be turned into tools and machinery. So there you go. That took about 20 minutes, and we've got a solid passenger and rail freight lines going, providing us with some solid income. Just like that, if we just accelerate time here and sit back and enjoy the scenery, we're going to be making some profits and being able to expand our network. So there you go. That is going to do it for the beginner's quick start guide part of this. What I'd like to do now is I would like to pause the recording portion and go ahead and advance things a little bit and get things more set up, and then come back and show you what a more fully fleshed out passenger and cargo network is going to look like in the years to come. Alright, so thank you all for watching. If you want to end it here, this ends the quick start guide, but there's a little bit more to come if you want to stay with me. Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around. We are back with a few years into the future. Let's see, we're about 40 years into the future. You can see that we've got some airplanes flying around. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, we've got some airplanes carrying passengers around. We've got a more fully fleshed out rail and shipping service going on here. You already know what our oil setup looks like, right? We've got the oil coming down here to the refinery. The fuel is being taken down here to the town where it's being sold. That is working well. I could actually add, you can see that we've got some fuel stockpiling there. I could add a few more trucks, but there are already enough moving out of that one station. The oil is coming down here to the shipping yard, being taken down to the plastics factory. The plastics are coming back up here. They are being dropped off here and then taken by truck over to the machine factory, where they're being combined with steel to make machinery and tools. The steel is coming from this steel mill over here. The steel mill over here is being supplied by iron ore mines way the heck down here in the hills. So here's one iron ore mine. There's another one on the hill across from us over there. And by coal from a coal mine in the mountains up here that is running through a tunnel. I got all fancy and built a tunnel through this portion. Coal's coming down here to the steel yard, steel mill, where it's being combined with the iron ore, creating steel. The steel's coming back across the bridge to the machinery factory. So that's what this one train is taking care of, a lot of that. Let me show you. This one train is carrying iron ore from the south up to the steel mill. It's loading some steel onto these cars here, taking the steel to the machine factory. The machines are being loaded onto the last three cars here and being brought back to the town. So this is a comprehensive production loop, starting up here with some coal, some iron ore mines. The iron ore is being brought down to the town. It's being transferred to the rail freight station right here. The iron ore is being taken up here to the steel mill. It's being combined with the coal. The steel is being taken back across to the machine factory, where it's being combined with the plastics that are coming up the river, and those machines and tools are being taken and sold right back down here in the town. So that is a nice closed loop. It shows you that you can multitask these trains. You can load them up with different cars and have them carry different goods to different stops, and that can still be somewhat profitable. Probably not as profitable as if we had a dedicated train doing each of these tasks, but this is just the way I've set it up, and it works for me. So there you go. And again, we've got airports. We've got airports scattered all over. I think I've got 3 planes running right now, picking up passengers and taking them around. Oh, there's my Constellation. I've only got one of those. Yeah, let me show you that one right there. This is my biggest plane right here. That's still loading passengers, which is probably not a good idea. Actually, I'm going to change that right now to mode if available. Yeah, because not all those passengers are going to be going to the right destination. But yeah, so we've got an air network set up. Our passenger lines are running really well. This guy's probably full. Nope, he's carrying 54 of 120 passengers. But I actually had a problem on this line earlier. So I lost some passengers there because my cars got too old and just fell off the train. They disintegrated. But there you go. This is, so, you know, a few years down the road, and you can see we've got some more passenger service set up in these other towns. We've got some other freight lines going. We've got our air passenger service going. So there you go. Enjoy the game. Leave a like if you want to see more of these types of videos. And if I'm doing stuff wrong, please let me know in the comments. I love getting feedback like that. I do not say that this is the way to do anything. I'm sure that I'm making mistakes. I'm still fairly new to the game. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.